Okay, cool. Right now in my laptop, the time is already 10 p.m. But the clock in the lab room still going to 9 p.m. So yeah, I will start putting to the time display in my laptop. So good morning, everyone. So welcome again to the session for the platform-based development or programming course. Today, the topic will be about for authentication session and cookie. If I have to summarize this title, it can be shortened into handling user input and maintaining states in a web page. Because in this tutorial, you will learn how to create a form that will be used to receive input from the user, like when you type a new username or when you type a text in your web page. That is handled by the form tag and also the input text that usually put in as the content of the form tag. And then you will also learn how to create a simple login and user registration using the form and also the existing functions provided by JMU. And after doing that, you will use session and cookie mechanism to maintain state of the user in order to restrict the wish list page that you have created. So in the end of the tutorial, but before that, there are several yeah, I know the connection is unstable. You will get like a short version of one subject that is taught in computer networks course. Are you taking computer networks course right now? Yeah. So in computer networks, you will learn more in depth about the reality behind what's happening whenever you create a request from your web browser and send it to the web server. The general like 10,000 feet view of the process has been taught in previous lectures, but you will learn more in depth in the computer network course. And one of the components involved in the process is the protocol. So it's like protocol that you probably know in everyday life, right? When for those of you who try hard to uni, to the faculty, maybe you ever encounter a convoy of policemen that turning on their siren and they are asking you to give way to the car that is accompanied by the policemen that riding on their motorcycles or their cars. And yeah, that's their protocol, right? The activity that they have to do when, for example, accompanying or guarding an important person in their journey. Or for example, for those who in a simple social setting, if somebody greets you like good morning, selamat pagi, selamat siang, hajimemashite in Japanese or in Nordic and in Germany, usually the response is you should read them back, right? So that's the protocol. And that also applies in digital communication. The details it will be taught in the computer course, but in short, you will use this HTTP protocol that serves as the foundation of layer for communication between two programs, which is your web browser and the program deployed on the server. And usually, we have this point of view that assume the current program that being used by user is the client, whereas the target or the other program that is being communicated by the user via a program in their computer is the server file. So from client, user access the and not access but send request messages to the server, and the server will provide the user with responses. And for each request sent from the client are assumed to be stateless according to the protocol. It means that for every request sent to the server, each request is independent. So there is no correlation between each request. So for example, if I open, let's say, a YouTube page, not that one. Well, let's say scale it. And let's take a look in the debugging console with the network pages. Remember that after a browser sends an initial request by sending the request containing the URL, server will provide a response containing the HTML page. Once the browser able to read the HTML page, the browser will send more requests to obtain the files defined in the HTML page. For example, there are several JavaScript files and also PNG files, which is an image. Those requests will be sent after the browser has read the HTML file. And according to HTTP protocol, each of those requests is independent. So it is assumed that a request to get this jQuery file is not related with the request that attempted to get this PNG file. So why is this important? Because yeah, it's that details is in the computer network course later, but that's the way how the protocol works. So yeah, we currently just take it as it is. So take it for granted for now, but later on we will learn more about that in the computer network course. And this assumption of stateless also means that that also raises a question for us as the developer. How do we maintain state? Because if every request are assumed to be stateless, then how can, for example, Scale knows that the client or the browser that sent a request is myself, so that Scale can display this profile picture and also my name at the right top side of the Scale page. And you will see that that can be done using section or cookies. So we provide additional information to the request letter to indicate that this request is related to somebody, for example, in Scale, or somebody that is already registered on Scale and considered to be authenticated and authorized to invoke certain functionalities in scaling. So we utilize the session and cookie method to provide kind of stateful functionality to HTTP protocol. Okay, so that's the quick overview about the HTTP layer. And while it's already mentioned in the document, HTTP is just a layer on top of approximately like 7 or 8 layers of networking stack in your computer or in a computing device. So the HTTP that defines what will happen when the browser send a request and what should be done when the browser receives a response that is defined in the network in the HTTP protocol. But the actual details, like how to send the request object that is currently in binary data, for example, into the digital or electronic signal sent via wire or via the wireless network, that is handled in separate layer, most likely in the optical layer, I forgot. But as a developer, you usually only care about the application layer and presentation layer. So application layer is the HTTP protocol. Presentation layer, kind of forgot. Maybe it's about the security or the encryption layer that provide security to the data package that sent from the program to a destination, and many more. You will learn more about these layers in computer network course, or you can also read it by yourself. And yeah, there are also action methods. So in an HTTP get message in protocol, usually you get to provide what kind of action or method in the HTTP request. Is it get, post, put, or delete? Also, the status code that is provided from the response generated from the server, and also headers. So headers is like the envelope, the information you write on an envelope that containing your message. In HTTP case, that is also similar. So the actual message, the body of your message is the letter, and then the address or any information, like if your letter contain a fragile item, maybe you put a fragile stamp on the letter on the envelope. Then it's like you are putting the headers on the envelope of the letter. The energy also applies in HTTP protocol. So when you send a request, not only you prepare the body of the request, but you also prepare the headers, the information that you put in the figurative envelope of your message. Okay, cookie and session, but before go to that part, any questions so far regarding quick overview about HTTP protocol? Yeah, okay. I see somebody send me a chat message. Yeah, I noted that. Cookies and session. Okay, as I mentioned before, HTTP is stateless, so every request are assumed to be independent. So if we want to associate a request to a particular user in the web application or a website, then we need additional information to be embedded in the request, so that the website or the web application knows that this particular request is related to a user or an entity or an element that is recognized in the website. So we can use the session. cookies is you can view it like a cage, a temporary cage for small amount of data stored locally in your web browser. And those data can be incorporated into subsequent requests sent to the web server. Because the cookies can store information that is sent from the server, and server can also maintain that kind of information in form of session. So the server knows that if there is a request, for example, coming from a user with ID equal to 1, the user ID is user integer, then the server can store a state, for example, a variable or a dictionary that tracks that user with ID 1 is currently authenticated or not. For example, if the user is authenticated in server side, then that information is stored in that kind of variable or dictionary, which is usually considered as the session. And if the server receives a request containing a cookie that associated with that same session, then the server knows that this request belongs to this user from somewhere else, like maybe he is accessing from a laptop in the cafeteria with the IP address in the data package. The server knows that there is also additional data where the cookie is sent in with the request. And since the cookie matches with the session information, then the server can correlate that this request is for the user, and the server can return the information requested specifically for that user. Well, in short, session and cookie is like a pair of keys, maybe, but not only keys. If I use the key analogy, it's as if session and cookie is only for authentication purpose. It's not always like that. Cookie and session can be used not only for authentication purpose. It can also be used for other things as well. But you can view it like the session is like you have a lock that knows the key that can open that lock. And that key can be sent to other person, and that other person receives that key figuratively and stored as a cookie. So since the person receives that key in the cookie, then whenever the user wants to send a request back to the web server, the key matches with the lock in the server. So if we take example about authentication, then the server knows this user is valid, still authenticated, and the user can open specific pages that reserved only for authenticated user. And yeah, not only cookies, web browser nowadays also have additional capabilities to store information locally. So this local storage is similar to cookie, but it allows a larger amount of storage to contain information sent from the server, or even information that is generated by the client-side program running in the browser. So it has maximum of 5 megabytes, so that's a lot more things than the cookies. So let's begin with the code. Right, this one. Okay, so let's start with the web page for obtaining user information. So let's say you want to make a registration page to allow users to create an account in your website. Well, you can start from anywhere actually. You can start from defining the data model first, or you start from defining the views, the views of UI, or you can also start using by defining the web page. So you can pretty much start from from the back end, like implementing the Python functions, or you can also start from the front end part of the web page, like you are defining the web page first before going into the back end part. Because both approaches are valid. It depends on your work style and also the conventions agreed upon your team as a performance. So this is the important tag, that is form. Form is the tag, HTML tag that will become the parent of every input forms that can be sent to the website, to the web server. So the form will contain a method, so you can specify the kind of HTTP method to be submitted from a particular form. So in this example, you're using post method. So let's take a look at this. And then for the design of the form itself, you can define your own input form, but since Django already provided us with a template to handle user registration, then that template can be usable instead of developing your own template, your own registration form. So it is already contained in the form object, and the input form can be rendered as a table. So we just simply reuse the form provided by Django here. And then there's the input submission type, which will become the trigger that will send the form, the data contained in the form to the server. So after each input has been filled by the user, or maybe partially filled by the user, and then the user click submit button or link, those inputs will be contained into the HTTP body message and then sent to the server. And the remainder here is part about the form can also display error message or informational message sent from the user and from the server with using the response object. So that's the design of the HTML page for handling user registration. I want to ask you something. What does extents-based HTML means here? Can anyone provide us with an explanation why extents-based HTML is needed there?
Extends from that to the HTML file. Yeah.
Cool. That's right. So, we can check base HTML. Wait, why the font is not looking for this? Oh, okay. my wireless keyboard is acting. So I guess I will return back to my laptop. Oh, that's why I turn on caps lock in my laptop. Not that base, this base. The base HTML contains a template within a template. So it is used to reduce rather than duplicate codes in your HTML pages. For example, you have for each HTML page, you know that you need to declare the doc file, HTML, head, and also body. If we are not using extents, then you have to do that for each HTML page that you created. Imagine that if you have to modify, let's say, the meta tag in a page, and you have to make it consistent across each page in your website, then you have to modify every occurrence of that meta text in every HTML page that you have created. But if we already extracted the common parts of your templates to, for example, to this HTML, then if you have to make a change to a certain text here, then the changes will automatically apply across every HTML pages because the other HTML pages extends this same this HTML file. It's like inheritance mechanism in computer language. Okay, so you have HTML, then that HTML inherits this HTML file. It's similar to that. And within the template with this HTML, it also defines a block like meta and content, and this block can not can but more like will be replaced by the content provided from different HTML page that extends it. So in this example, the register of HTML, you will declare the block meta and also block content, then you put the actual HTML text in between the block contents and also in between the meta block. So better when Django handles your HTML file. So when the CSUI renders this register HTML, Django knows what HTML page to use as the parent in quotes, and also use it to become the template that whose content will be filled by the text defined in the register HTML. So yeah, cool. Thank you. Now, maybe I should use now. Okay, this is the welcome copy. So in the tutorial, what you need to do is continue your practice tutorial and follow the instructions. So for example, here you are asked to import more functions, and this is the component that I mentioned before, the user creation form. So Django already provided you with this class. It contains methods and also the HTML thing that you can use immediately in your web pages. And obviously, if you want to provide the user with the registration page, then you have to create a function that eventually will return the registration page, right? And the implementation is as mentioned in the first snippet. So you instantiate the form object, and you need to distinguish two kinds of requests here. First, you need to know that if user is initially access the URL to get the registration page, then the user should receive the empty registration form. However, if the user send the information from the registration form that has been filled, then the function needs to be able to obtain that information from the request. Therefore, it is required to have this conditional. So you need to distinguish the request to obtain the web page and the request to handle a registration information. So by default, if the request is assumed as get request in the example. So if the request is get, then it is immediately go to this context declaration. It will provide an empty form to be rendered by the HTML file. But if the request is a post method, then parse the input, the submitted input from user, and assign it into a new form object. And then do some validation, like checking whether the number of characters valid or the number of characters in the password must be over than 16 characters, for example. That validation should be done at this block. And if it is valid, then save it and provide a notification or a message that will be displayed to the web page that will be returned. And yeah, this is a new function, redirect. Does anybody have tried this function before, redirect? Yeah, okay. So what is it? What is it for? It's okay in bahasa Indonesia. I will translate it to English later.
When people visit my watch list, that function will read the to my watch list /HTML.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Wait a minute. I suspect. Oh, okay. I thought I forgot to turn on my microphone. So a redirect function can be used to tell your web browser to access different URL. To give you one, I think I can show it here in IntelliJ. Okay. Well, in this example, so if the form is valid, the fish.py here will send a response to web browser, but the content of that response is a redirection. So the web browser will receive a HTTP response with code 300 something. And along with the response, it also contains the new URL where the browser should send a request. So if the registration is successfully handled in this piece of code, Django will send a response, but that response will be containing a redirection. And once the browser receives that response, the browser will send a subsequent request immediately to the URL contained in this redirection response before. And the URL here is parser from the URL.py, if I remember correctly. So in your URL.py, the router of your app, this redirect will perform what is called as reverse lookup. So it will look if there is a matching function equal to this given name in the parameter of redirect call. And if there is a match, then redirect will create the URL and put it into the response object that is sent to the web browser. So that's what happened when using redirect function. Okay, turns out, yeah, I already completed the registration, but I haven't done the login part. So maybe we can do the programming together for the login form. But if you already finish and focusing on other stuff like finishing your assignments, you can also do that. But if you still following with the tutorial, you can also follow my attempt in doing the tutorial. I think I opened something that is this relevant? Let's see. I think it's still relevant. Yeah, just a minor intermezzo. Color scheme. How do I change color scheme in IntelliJ? Yep. Okay. Presentation. Yeah. This won't come up in exam, but if you have experience in other language such as Java, this is the equivalent of use.py in Java. So this is using a web framework called Spring in Java. And for example, if we want to get the to-do list, then the mapping, the URL routing mechanism is incorporated directly in the use.py of Java here. So the use.py is, I mentioned it before, is usually called as controller in NPC architectural pattern. So in this controller class, the mapping of the URL is defined directly as annotation on top of the method that will handle that request. So it handles get request and furthermore, there will be a method that will handle post requests correctly. And yeah, since this is a framework, sometimes there are many things that kind of magic, like in Django, you have to provide the context dictionary, right? However, in Java's Spring, the context object is encapsulated in an object. So we define a new object, a new type of object, and put that object as a parameter of that method. And yeah, that's how it works in Java Spring. And that's the common pattern that already defined by the framework developer. And as the user, usually we just follow the existing pattern. How it works are quite complex. And yeah, this is only a bit intermezzo to give you one example how is it done in other web framework. Okay, there's also redirection. So yeah, sometimes it's also doesn't make sense. Why the controller returns a list? return a string, because if we consider again about the program, each function in Python, not Python, Python quite specific. So in Django, you return a response object type, but in this example, in Java's Spring Boot framework, instead of returning an actual response object, it returns a string. So it's initially it might not make sense, but yeah, that's how the framework was designed. So if it is returning a string, it actually referring to the name of the view template file. And also, if the string is prefixed with redirect, then it will mean a redirection operation, similar to the redirect function in Django. Okay, that's enough for the quick intermezzo. So I'm going to go through with the login form. Okay. So when creating the login form, what you need to do is create a new function that receives a request. And I'm a fan of using type hinting in Python to assist code completion in Visual Studio Code. So my code will be a bit more verbose, but yeah, at the end, it might also just my habit from programming in Java language. So if we follow the instructions, so we need to import two functions from Django contrib, I guess, authentication, import authenticate, and what else? Login. So once the function has been imported, yeah, we need to make the function name different from the login that was imported from Django's package. So we create a login user. And again, we need to differentiate the request that attempted to obtain an empty login form and to submit a completed field login form. Okay. So you can be explicit, like if request is post, then do something, and maybe you can also put if request equal to get, then you do something. But yeah, why add extra conditional if we can do just with a single conditional, right? If the request is a post method, then just send it, just handle it, process the information submitted by users. Anything else, just assume it like a HTTP GET request. So we obtain the username. Let's assume it. The type of username is string. And then from the request object, we obtain the dictionary containing the information sent from the form submitted by user. Similarly for the password as well. So we obtain the username and then the password, and we try to authenticate the user based on the given username and password. So the Django will check, is there a match of the user with given password with the list of users in the database. If there is a match, then authenticate the user into the system. But if there is no match, then yeah, forbid them from accessing the system. So we can do this authenticate, call the authenticate method function that have been imported before, and it requires the request and then also the username and also the password. But yeah, it seems we have to be more specific for that. And the authentication will check whether the user successfully retrieved it or not based on the whether there is a match of that user in the database. If there is a match, then the user will be not none. It means that there is actually a user object successfully retrieved by the authenticate function. If we can find that user, we try to log in using that user. And then we redirect it to the show wish list. Okay. But if we cannot find the user, for example, if the given username and password doesn't match with any other users in the database, we provide an error message or just informational message to the HTML page that will be seen by the user. So we provide a message like wrong username or password. Since this is related to sensitive information, we should try to not providing direct information related to the user. So, for example, if we can actually know which one of the username or password that doesn't match, but when providing the error message or informational message back to the user, we should be ambiguous to avoid the naughty users in code able to infer which information that already been correctly submitted to the server. So if we just tell them the username or password is wrong, then it could be the username is wrong, or the password is wrong, or it could be both. So yeah, it will be slightly make the hostile party that attempted to access the system to be get a bit more disoriented. I don't know the correct word. It makes them to become less convenient to finding out the correct username and password. But as developer, don't be what is called. As developer, usually we also often to put logging messages, right? So, for example, when we are debugging our application, the simplest thing to do when we are debugging or finding out potential faults in the code is by printing a message that containing the state of our application. In that process, it is okay to be more verbose, to be very to contain a lot of information in your log messages. But when you have to provide informational messages that will be seen by user, please do not too direct when giving them information. Especially don't give them information about the internal state of the application, because that information can be used by a hostile party or hostile person that attempting to attack the system, like figuring out what is the correct username or the correct password, or what is the version of Django used in the server, because potentially there might be a security hole in that particular Django version, and if that hostile person knows that from any information produced by the system, then your Django application can be attacked by that hostile person. So in short, do not give information too broadly to the user, especially if the information is related to the state of the application. For example, IP address or the invoked function, or even worse, maybe you forget to remove a logging call that display the username submitted by user, and somehow it leaks out to the messages sent as response object to the web browser. Sensitive information like username or password. So yeah, this is a bit more important nowadays, especially from what happened in our countries. So lately, like from the early September, or maybe from even earlier from the September, there were a lot of data breaches happen in several systems owned by the government. So yeah, I think we should be more careful when implementing an web application that have to process user submitted data, like the username, password, their actual name, address, phone number, etc. We have to be more careful when handling user submitted data. But yeah, we are still learning how to do that properly. Sometimes we already tried our best according to our technical capability that we can implement a pretty good system, but yeah, the other party, like the employer or the government that may hire us later on, they might have different opinion. So yeah, I'm trying to avoid being too politically here because my payroll is provided by the government as well. Okay, sorry, I went to I fear too far from the actual topic, so let's continue on the actual topic, which is to implement the login functionality. Okay, next, create the, wait a minute, the context object, and the context object should be empty. And then what should be returned? So we render the login page, and the login page should contain the context that initially still empty. And why is this have squiggly red line? Expected an indented block. Ah, right. It's still a problem. Why? Anyway, it might be fixed eventually. Logging with double G. Okay, before I continue, is there any question regarding the procedure on creating a login form and also creating the registration form? Have you done that in your own free time? Okay, cool. Where's TA? They come. Let me check in Discord. I have to log in again to Wi-Fi. Nah, just use 3G. Just use mobile network. Okay. Apparently the signal is not that good.
yeah, later on, I can just contact them later. Login.html. Okay, so if you have created the function and the views.py, the next thing to do is to create the HTML page here. So create login HTML, and you can type it on your own. in this case, you can immediately copy the content of this code block from the assignment site, from the tutorial site, and then paste it into the HTML. And voila, you are done. But usually, I really recommend you to type it on your own instead of copy paste the code to build muscle memory in whenever you are coding to a Python file or HTML file. And yeah, that's the login page. And then we add the routing here. So we add a new path. So if there is a request pointing to /wishlist/login, then it should be handled by the login user function. And then, yeah, that's enough, I suppose. Yeah, in the code examples provided by TA, the path function also include additional argument here that mention the name of the function. For example, login. I haven't read the documentation deeply to understand the purpose of this attribute, this argument. But yeah, if you didn't put the name here, the name associated with this particular URL mapping, then your application still works. So yeah, I still don't know whether this argument is mandatory or not. Maybe you can help. You have is that Rinaldo or Finlandi? I still forgot. Rinaldo. Okay. You are the key, right? Usually you put an argument here, right? Is it mandatory or not?
It's just that when you put the right back in HTML, like you have access to this. Dan jadi kita kalau misalnya pakai syntax Django itu kayaknya ini bisa dipakai buat tag yang ada kita punya website aja kayak pas misalnya kita tombol nah itu saya kalau dia direct ke sini nah kita nggak usah pakai yang banyak itu biasanya
yang di first look up nyari direct ya
dia bisa pakai apa ya
ini
dia action ini juga bisa sih Pak. Saya juga agak lupa.
Ya ini kan sih. Jadi karena tapi ini loginnya elegant deh.
Itu tuh kalau ini tuh ketempel Pak kalau ini. Kalau yang tadi tuh saya baru nemu use case itu di HTML di HTML tuh webnya nanti pakai sintaks kayak gini, terus name apa kayak login gitu. Kayak name sama dengan login. Jadi kalau di form ada just itu ya kalau di form juga pakai.
I see. Okay. Yeah, essentially what I can surmise from my discussion with the DAs, I still don't really know. So it will be related somehow with the templating syntax in your HTML page. So that name in your URL footer can be used in the HTML template. But yeah, in the end, I cannot really explain it. So yeah, please read the documentation later. So yeah, that's how you can do login. And there is also another functions to log out and to restrict the access to the wish list. This is interesting. Have you used the decorator function before in Python? Anyone? Does anyone have experience in using decorator function in Python? Not yet. Decorator function is if you are writing a code in Python, usually if you find a code that is contain an @ symbol here, that will followed by the name of function, that is called as decorator. And what it does is it will the function that is mentioned in the decorator will be executed before the actual function is invoked. So to give you an illustration, plain old notepad, just use a large font. Okay, so you have this function, let's say add a comma b, return a plus b, result equal to a plus b, then you return it. And at the same time, you also have this decorator, And in this decorator, instead of usually receiving an argument like an integer, a string, or an object, the decorator function will receive a function as the parameter or the argument. And later on, it will depend on the implementation of the decorator itself. One of the common implementation is you can do something like hello from decorator, and then you invoke the function that is passed upon the function that you provided into the decorator. Like the function here usually also accepts arguments. So, pardon if you tried this simultaneously in your own computer and if it doesn't work, please pardon me, because I kind of forgot the actual syntax of decorator in Python. But the concept here is a decorator function will receive a function as via the argument, and you can invoke that function inside the scope of the decorator function. So you can pass down the arguments, then from decorator. So the idea here is, let's say we have this function a comma b. We call this we put this decorator here. So when we invoke when we call add function here, like 5,2, the interpreter, the output will produce
hello from decorator. 5,2 is 7, and then bye-bye from decorator.
The idea here, you can have a function, and we can add additional functionality, or we can invoke additional statements without modify the original function. That is the purpose of decorator. So we can just leave the function here as it is, we don't have to modify it. And by applying a decorator, the behavior of the decorated function can be transformed into something different. So in this example, instead of just calculating A plus B, it can also produce a message that is produced before the actual function is called and after the actual function is called.
That idea is applied here in the Django framework.
So whenever there is an incoming request, and that request is associated or mapped to this function, the login required decorator will perform additional procedure before actually invoking this show with this function. And that additional procedure is to check whether the user has logged in or not. So if the user has logged in into the application, then the show with this will proceed as usual. However, if the user turns out still not logged into the application, then show business will terminate earlier. So the user might be redirected to the login page if the login required failed to authenticate the user.
And yeah, again, this decorator stuff, I just mentioned it in the 10,000 feet overview. How to implement it, you will learn about that in advanced programming course. Okay, yeah, pretty much there is no further what do you call it, things I can explain. You can continue working on the tutorial. If there is a question, just raise your hand and ask me or the TAs that will working around or staying on certain spots in this room. So yeah, let me check whether if there is any questions in the chat. Still empty. YouTube as well is still empty. Okay. Okay. The final word. Yeah. Don't forget to add comment and push your comment. Okay, I'm going to take attendance right now. Since I'm going to open my SIAC page, the academic system, feel free to share screen. Okay. And also the Zoom, I'm going to stop sharing to avoid leaking sensitive information regarding your scores and so on. Daftar kelas. tambah baru, and what date is it? 22nd of September from 10 a.m. to 11:40. And for now, assume everyone is not present. And I will flag them as present if I can find them or they responded in the lab. That's easier. Okay. Let's begin taking attendance. How do I answer? So, Zuhri, okay, present. Then Muhammad Gazian, okay, over there. Amar Ashidik, okay. Azra Sik, okay. Let me check my email. Not like this. The one who has requested to be excused from absence is, yeah, I know. And your name is Dylan. Okay. Excuse, and also the other excuse, and the one who sent me a chat message just now. Who is it? I forgot. Right, yeah. You mentioned that in your email as well. That's okay. Please, if you are sick, notify me immediately, and also get a doctor prescription. Yeah, just ask your doctor to write a letter that certify you that you are actually sick. Okay. Diwa, are you here? Okay. Muhammad Fiko. Fiko Anugrah, right? I forgot your what should I usually call you? I remember both Fiko have their own nicknames. What is your nickname, Muhammad Fiko? I forgot. Huh? Juko. Okay. I need to update this. Juko. Okay, thank you, Juko. Next is Moza. Okay, noted. Raizas. Okay. AI. Okay. And Shafiko. How come you are at the back? Usually you are in the front. Muhammad Attar. Okay. Nafis. Okay, noted. David Cristianto. Halomoan Geraldo. Next is Jovian. Okay. Kalus. Nicholas Lexi. Okay. Yep. Rafael Peder. You who? Yeah. He has sent me email before. Thank you. Nico. Okay, noted. And Linnea. Thank you. Yep. Save. What time is it? Yep. It's safe to share again. Yes, sure. And then share my screen again. Where's the button to share the screen again? Julian, I think I did. It's okay, Julian. I have noted your absence in SIAC. That's okay. I was going to do. I forgot. Oh, share my screen. Just share it. The whole screen. Okay, cool. Well, it's okay. I mean, as long as you attended the lab session, that's okay. Yeah, do you know the people did with the material, with the tutorials, or the assignments? Have you arranged a demonstration session with the PA? Okay, I don't forget to do that because your assignment will be graded from your demonstration. Okay, anything else? Yeah, have you finished the tutorial? I see. Okay then. Okay. No worries. Okay, what I was going to do? Yeah. Okay, I think I can just end the stream now. So I think I have covered everything. So thank you. And yeah, For those who are attending physically, just feel free to ask me or the TA. And for those who are participating remotely, well, yeah, I think there is nothing to say more. But yeah, there's a Discord, and me and also the TAs are also available on Discord if you have to ask questions. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to stop the